So today we'll be looking at a disease called botulism. So some background information concerning botulism is that it's created by the bacterium Clostridium botulinum. It's a rare but fatal paralytic disease with 145 cases that are reported each year. 15% are foodborne botulism, 65% are infant botulism, and 20% are wound botulism. They can affect both humans and animals, but only certain strains of the bacteria. So some basic information about the bacterium is that it's mainly found in soil. It has a gram-positive bacillus. It's rod-shaped. It produces neurotoxins, and the neurotoxins that it does produce is one of the most poisonous biological substances known. It's anaerobic, so it grows best in low oxygen conditions. It produces spores, and it produces 7 types of toxins lettered from A through G. Letters A, B, and E, and F affect humans, while C, D, and G affect animals. So to understand how this bacterium works in your body, you have to understand that all serotypes interfere with neural transmission. The H chain of the toxin binds to the receptors of the presynaptic surface of neurons, which is taken in by endocytosis. Then the toxin escapes into the cytoplasm. The L chain interacts with different proteins in the nerve terminals to prevent fusion of acetylcholine vesicles with the cell membrane. Acetylcholine is the main neurotransmitter at the neuromuscular junctions, and by blocking them causes paralysis. So there are 5 types of different botulisms. The first one is foodborne botulism. It's caused by the intoxication caused by consuming contaminated food with the toxin already in it. It can be found in canned foods, and because there's no oxygen present in the food, it can thrive perfectly. The second type is called infant botulism, and it's when the toxin infection is in the gastrointestinal tract, which is colonized by spores before the protective intestinal bacteria develops. They can come in contact by contaminated dirt or dust, and they are extremely susceptible because their digestive system. The third type is called wound botulism, and it's when the spores enter a wound under the skin, but this one mainly only affects drug users such as heroin addicts that use infected syringes. And the last 2 types of botulisms concerns adults. They get infected the same way as infants. And the other one is concerns lab workers and scientists that are overexposed to the bacterium and they become infected also. So when you do come in contact with the disease, some symptoms that you do get is you have either double or blurred vision, you get drooping eyelids, your speech is slurred, you have a hard time swallowing, you get a dry mouth, and you have severe muscle weakness. In infants, it's almost the same, but they have different symptoms also. So once you contract these symptoms, if you leave them untreated, some complications do arise, such as you get paralysis, you have respiratory failure, you may need a breathing machine, and you could possibly die from the infection. Some patients that do live through it experience fatigue and shortness of breath, and they have a long-term recovery. So in order to know if you really are infected with botulism, what doctors do is that they look at a patient's history, and that's usually not enough to know if you are infected, so they look at brain scans and spinal fluids, and the reason they do this is because there are other diseases out there that have the same symptoms. If you get infected with botulism, you can take antitoxins that can get rid of the bacteria. If the antitoxin is administered before full paralysis, it could possibly prevent the infection from getting worse and shorten the recovery time. Some prevention techniques to keep in mind is to cook your canned foods properly or at high temperatures. If you do get infected through a wound, is to get immediate medical attention. And for infants, it cannot be prevented because it could be in the dust and in dirt that's already been contaminated. So some interesting facts that I've learned while doing research on botulism is that even though it's the most poisonous biological substance known, that it's actually being used as a medicine to fix problems in muscles, and it's actually being used in Botox treatments. So that concludes my presentation. Hopefully it gives a good insight of botulism and its effects.